Now let us create our module using Angular CLI, right? So since we are having only a single module right now we want to create another module that will be for our services. So I just want to create a services module in our project. So let us go to the terminal and type this command ng space g space module. Like you want to create the module, so you have to write module here. Then you have to type the name of the module. So it will be something like service module or services, or you can say it is helper module, right? You want to create a helper module, so hit enter, and now you will see there is a module that is created inside the helper folder. Inside the app folder, inside the helper folder, there is a helper.module.ts file. So see here, we are having that module here, and if you double click it, it is having everything, right? It is having ng module decorator, it is having import statements from Angular core, and it is also importing a common module inside it, right? Now let us create one more component, and that component will be registered inside our helper component. Okay, so let us just go back there and create that ng space g space c. I want to create a component, and then component name will be maybe login component, right? And then we have to specify the module name using module switch, because we do have more than one module, right? So use this switch module and then name of that, so it is helper. Okay, hit enter. Now it is going to create that component and register it inside our helper module. So see here, the this login component is here, and if you go to the helper folder and click it, you will see that login component is added inside the declarations and also imported here, right? So this way you can just create your modules also using Angular CLI. अगर आपको मेरी वीडियो पसंद आई तो आप मेरे चैनल को सब्सक्राइब करके बेल आइकन को दबा दीजिए, ताकि फ्यूचर में जो भी वीडियोस अपलोड होंगी उसकी नोटिफिकेशन आपको मिल सके। और इस वीडियो को लाइक कर लीजिए। साथ में अगर आपको कोई कमेंट करना है, कोई सुझाव देना है, तो आप कमेंट सेक्शन में आप मेरे को ज़रूर बताइए कि वीडियो कैसी लगी आपको। इस वीडियो को लास्ट तक देखिएगा। So now let us understand what is data binding in Angular. So this is a very famous topic in Angular. So data binding is actually a process of binding the data from your component to the HTML template, right? So in the HTML template you can refer to DOM, right? Document Object Model. So binding your data from component to HTML DOM is called as data binding. So let us first do that, like how we can do that, right? So let me just close all the files here and then open our home component. Let us open home component.ts file and home component.html file, right? So the data binding is actually two types, right? One-way binding and two-way binding. So one-way data binding is actually a process to bind your data from controller. Okay, sorry, I'm referring that control. It is a process of binding the data from component to its DOM, right? Like the data is going in a single direction from your component towards the HTML template. Okay, so in this case we are actually going to define our data inside our component, and then that data will be visible onto our template file, that is the HTML file. So let us see how it works. So now inside our home component.ts file, I'm going to create a variable, or we are going to create a property. Actually it is not variable, it is a property. So let's say the property name is my name. Okay, and it is going to be the type of string. Okay, and the name, like my name is, so we are going to use the single quotes here and a semicolon, and inside single quotes I'm just going to say some name like Tom, right? So this is actually a prototype how you can create any property inside a component, right? Inside a component or inside any class. So you have to type the property name, then you have to define what type of it, like it is string, it is number, it is date or whatever, right? And then you have to provide any initial value, or you can ignore that also, like it is not compulsory. You can do this thing also, like if you have created this variable, you can just put the semicolon here and then provide this value from the ng on init or from the constructor of this particular component. So we are going to understand what is constructor, what is ng on init, or what is event life cycle of Angular components. So stay tuned, we are going to discuss the same things in later videos, right? So for now, let us just understand, we are going to use this my name from the constructor. So to use it, you just have to write this dot my name. Okay, sorry, my name is going to be equal to Peter. Okay, so now this way you also able to initialize this particular property. Now since we have this data in our TS file, how we can access that data onto our template file? So I am going to explain the one-way data binding, right? So there are like so many type of one-way data bindings. So I'm just going to use, there is a very first thing, that is interpolation. Okay, so I'm just going to create a heading h1 and I'm just going to write interpolation. So this is a technique of one-way data binding. So we are going to use interpolation for binding that my name inside the template. So I want to show that name here. So I will be just writing something here, like let's say paragraph tag, and inside paragraph tag I just want to say name is equals to, then for interpolation you have to use curly braces, like 2 curly braces this time, this syntax, and inside this curly braces you have to write that particular property name. So it was my name. Okay, so you might get this kind of intelligence if you have installed all the extensions from the maybe first session or second maybe, right? So you can just click it and it is now okay. So if you save it and go to your browser, like make sure you run this project. So ng space serve, so it is going to run the project. So once it is running, you can just verify it on the browser. So let it run. Yeah, it is compiled successfully. Go to the browser and refresh it because it was stopped. So see here, it is now showing name is Peter. Got it? So let's create one more property in our TS file and access that here. Let's create another property for age. Age, it is going to be type of number, and then I'm just going to directly assign a value to it, like maybe 25. Okay, save it and go to your template file, and inside another paragraph tag you can just type your age is, use the interpolation sign, that is double like pair of curly braces, then you can just write age. Okay, so let us just verify it is giving error. Yeah, it is all in small letters, so you can just use age as like this. Now save it and go to the browser. you will see like it is showing name as Peter and age is 25, right? Like it is displaying the data whatever we have defined in our TypeScript file. Okay, so let us understand one more type of one-way data binding, and that is property binding. Okay, so now I'm just going to create another header h1, and inside this I'm just going to type something property binding. So I am just giving this title so that you can understand like how you can use property binding, how you can use interpolation binding, kind of that, right? So property binding is anything that is actually you are going to bind the data using the HTML properties. For example, if you are going to create, let me just create a div here, and inside this div I'm going to create one input tag, right? Input type is equals to text. It is going to create a text box, and then you can provide a value to it, and that is maybe you can just give a value like hello world. Save it. We are not using any type of binding here. We are just providing a static value to it, that is hello world. If you see on the browser, it is just printing this hello world there. Okay, so let's suppose I just want to give this value from the TypeScript file, that is from the component.ts file. So let us now create one more property, and that is message property. It is kind of string, and I want to store it hello world, right? And from ts file. Okay, just to understand like it is coming from a ts file. So I just created a message property and save it. Okay, it is saved. Now go to the template file, and instead of this double quotes you just have to use that property name. Okay, so the property name is message, right? But again, if you save it, there is nothing happening. If you see here, it is simply printing message, but you want that it should print hello world from ts file, right? So there is a problem. You have given the message inside the double quotes, but you have not used any kind of binding because it is plain HTML stuff. So to use property binding, you have to use square brackets. Please note, for property binding, you have to use square brackets along with the property name. So value is a property for this particular input box. So you have to surround this value with square bracket. And now if you save these changes and go to the browser, you will see it is displaying hello world from ts file. Got it? So this is property binding. Even if you want to create a button here, right? A button, and or you can create a button using input tag also. So input type equals to button. Okay, and then value is equals to maybe click me to get a greeting, right? So this is a very long caption for that particular button. So let us see the same thing. It is going to display a button, but it is having this long text here. And now you want to get this particular caption from the ts file, right? So you can just go to the ts file and create another property, that is btn text, and it will be type of string. Then you can just provide the same message here, like click me to get a greeting message, right? Now save it and you have to just use btn text as a property binding in the template. So you have to surround this value inside this square bracket. Then instead of this text, you have to use the property name whatever you have created. So it is btn text, right? Now if you save it and go to the browser, you will see there is the message again. Okay, so this is how property binding works. You can just use square brackets surrounding this property, and then you can just use the property name to be binded. Now we are going to